Merry Christmas, you filthy film fanatics. Filmholmes here, and welcome to another rendition of Too Many Movies. Now, as you can see, I am in the holiday spirit. I love Christmas, I love this time of year, and the one thing I really love is Christmas movies. There are just so many Christmas movies out there. I love watching them every year. I watch them while I wrap presents. I love it. But this year, it's a little bit different because we are now in the... what am I trying to think of? We're like in the time of Star Wars again. Star Wars Rogue One comes out very soon. I've got my tickets pre-ordered, and I am going the night that it comes out, and I cannot wait. So this month, I'm doing something a little bit different because, I mean, we're going to have a new Star Wars movie, every December now for a couple of years. But I'm going to go ahead this year, and I'm going to talk about one of my all-time favorite movie franchises, Star Wars. I want to talk about the original trilogy, and I want to talk about the prequel trilogy, and then, of course, talk about The Force Awakens, and then, of course, do a review of Rogue One when it comes out. Now, I just talked about Christmas movies, and, I love Christmas movies. I've got a bunch of them, and I was originally going to review all my favorite Christmas movies until I thought of the Star Wars angle. So this year, minus the Star Wars movies, I'm going to review my favorite Christmas movie. And that will come right before Christmas, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I want to talk about Star Wars. And in this one, I'm going to talk about the original Star Wars trilogy. And I was going back and forth on whether I should do, each movie in individual video, but it's like when you talk about the Star Wars trilogy, you gotta talk about all three. And even same with the prequel trilogy. You have to talk about all three. So I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to cover Star Wars A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I'm going to talk about all three of these. And a lot of reviewers, they talk about, the original versions, and also the special editions. There have been so many different versions of these movies, I've honestly lost count. Well, in these I have, because I don't have the Blu-ray, but I do have these, they actually all came with a bonus disc, which is the Laserdisc print of the original films. Now, I'm not sure, which version of it. I mean, it's Laserdisc, so it was in the 80s. But I did watch all three of the original movies, and I'm sure they changed a few things, but as far as I know, they're pretty close to the original versions of the movies. So when I talk about each individual film, I'll talk about, some of the changes made in the special editions, because that's what I saw first. When they re-released these in '97, I got them on VHS. And that's what I saw originally in Star Wars, were the special editions, and then later on I saw the originals. But that's what I'll talk about in each review. I'll kind of cover the things they changed, which one I like more, and stuff like that. So, let's begin this video with Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, originally just called Star Wars. Let's get to it. Okay, so Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. If you don't know the story, it basically begins with Princess Leia, who is a member of the Rebel Alliance, gets captured by Darth Vader and the evil Galactic Empire. And she attaches a message to a droid R2-D2, who's accompanied by C-3PO, his partner in crime. And they go to a little desolate desert planet called Tatooine, and they come across Luke Skywalker, who takes the message to an old Jedi Knight, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and eventually they come in contact with Han Solo, a smuggler, with his partner Chewbacca, and they are trying to help them get the message to the Rebel Alliance, because it has plans to destroy. It has plans so that the Rebel Alliance are able to destroy the Galactic Empire's newest devastating creation, the Death Star, which can destroy a planet in one final blow, basically. So that's the story of Star Wars, A New Hope. Now, when I first saw this, I saw the special edition. I had never seen any Star Wars movie before. I had heard about them, but I didn't know anything about them. I knew they were space movies, but I was a kid and I was like, oh, they're older movies, they're not that good. I just didn't care. I wasn't really into film back then. But enough of my friends had talked about it, and when they re-released them on VHS with the Star Wars special editions, I, at the time, like, had a bunch of money saved up allowance-wise, and I bought it. And it was pretty expensive back then. If I remember right, it was like probably 60 to 80 bucks. So it was a lot of money for a young kid, but I wanted them. And my parents had seen all the movies when they originally came out, so they wanted to watch them with me, and I fell in love instantly with Star Wars. I mean, just the moment I saw A New Hope, I had to watch Empire, then I had to watch Jedi, and I rewatched those VHSs. I'm surprised they still work. I rewatched them, 50 times each. I loved it. I loved the characters of Luke, Han, Leia, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I loved even Darth Vader, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewbacca. I loved all the characters. It was so different, and back then I would have given it a 5 out of 5 because I was so enthralled with it. Now my opinion has changed a tiny bit. It is still one of the best movies ever made, and one of the best Star Wars movies. Now the special edition, I know they added a lot of new shots, like with the Death Star battle, the X-Wings coming in, that's nice. The Millennium Falcon leaving Mos Eisley, that's nice. The biggest change, they have the scene with Jabba the Hutt and Mos Eisley, when originally that never happened. And I like that scene a lot, I really do. Jabba has never really looked great, but they did the best they could. There's only so much you can do when originally it was just a human actor in the role, and you go, 20 years later to digitally put in before CG was really a thing. I mean, it was, but not like it is today when it's used in every single movie. Even like comedies use CG for something nowadays. But back then it wasn't as prevalent, so I thought it came off fine. The scene, it's not really necessary in a way. You have that scene with Greedo and who shot first, Han or Greedo. I won't get into it. It's never really bothered me. I do prefer Han just shooting Greedo because it didn't make him look like a cold-blooded killer. Greedo was going to kill him. It's as simple as that. So I don't understand what the big controversy was with George thinking that it made Han Solo look bad. It didn't at all. He was defending himself. So I kind of preferred the scene not being in there when I watched the original version of the film because it gives Jabba this air of mystery until we finally see him in Return of the Jedi, and it's like, whoa, like this is Jabba the Hutt. So, but it's still a good scene. It's a really good scene. It's funny, and it's a nice addition. I do like having it in the movie. There's really nothing. I mean, they cleaned up a lot of the special effects shots, which is nice. When I watched the original, that was very obvious. So I do prefer the special edition in a way, but the original still holds up as a fantastic film. And it's cool to see the original shots and a lot of the special effects. Now, for the movie itself, I mean, what can you say about it? It's classic from beginning to end. The opening scene is iconic. The droids on the planet is iconic. When they meet Luke Skywalker, that's iconic. When they go after R2, iconic. First meeting with Obi-Wan, every scene is memorable. When they get to Mos Eisley, when they get to the Death Star battle, the movie from beginning to end is iconic. And it's so good, like really, this could have been the only Star Wars movie, and even though it would have left some questions unanswered, it could have just been Star Wars. Not Episode 4, there could have been no more episodes, and the movie would still be considered one of the best movies ever made. But over the years, I've noticed some issues, mainly with the script. Some of the dialogue is a little off, and I still don't understand why Princess Leia had a British accent and then didn't. It's very odd. But honestly, Star Wars becoming what it did is a miracle. And George Lucas, a lot of it goes to him. He created all of this. He created the script. And even though it takes from a lot of older, television serials or movie serials, whatever. He took a lot from mythology and turned it into this. That's still a high task, and he did a great job with it. He created this universe all on his own. The script was fantastic, minus some just weird dialogue choices, which George Lucas would show us in later years. He's not the best with dialogue. I don't think he really understands how people talk. But they chose the right cast, the perfect cast, for these characters to bring them to life. And the film editing. If it wasn't for the film editing, this movie wouldn't be anything. So, and the direction is good, and the special effects team did things that no one had ever done before in a film. So, it's hard not to love this film. It's still up there as one of my favorites. It probably is still my second favorite, and it's Star Wars: A New Hope. I mean, how can you not love it? It's a classic. So, even though it's far from a perfect film, this did so much for film in general. It really did. It changed the game. It was really the first blockbuster, and is known worldwide. This is a franchise that was supposed to fail. The studio was even losing hope. And George Lucas had a vision, and people can bitch and complain about what he's done to the Star Wars franchise, or did, but without George Lucas, we wouldn't have Star Wars at all. So shut up. He made this, and thank God he did. But Star Wars: A New Hope, I give a 4.5 out of 5. Some things keep it from being a 5 for me. Just some little things that bother me, but without this, we wouldn't have Star Wars, and it still holds up as one of the greatest movies ever made. So let's move on to the sequel that many say is the best Star Wars movie made, and so far they're right. And I'll go ahead and say it is my favorite Star Wars movie, as well as it is almost everybody's. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. So the story behind this is basically, I'm not sure how long after the first film, but the Rebel Alliance is on the ice planet of Hoth, and they're discovered by the Empire. Luke gets injured early on by an ice monster, but recovers, and they go into this awesome snow battle with the Empire, and they finally escape. Luke goes off, after seeing a vision of Obi-Wan, to go see Yoda, an old Jedi Master, on Dagobah. So Luke goes off there to get training from Yoda, who is hesitant at first, but then finally does it. Han, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3, the rest of the cast, it's Luke and R2-D2 go off, the rest of the cast are trying to escape the Empire. Eventually, all come together on Cloud City, and Luke has to come face to face with Darth Vader and discovers a shocking secret about who he really is. Now, this movie was a lot darker than the first one. Also better written. Dialogue-wise, I give a lot of credit to Lawrence Kasdan, who is a fantastic writer. He wrote this one, he writes Return of the Jedi, and also Star Wars The Force Awakens, the newest one. And also wrote the first Indiana Jones movie. It's like, that's a hell of a resume. I give him a lot of credit for the script. I know there was somebody, Leigh Brackett also helped with the screenplay, which they deserve credit too. But Lawrence Kasdan, I think, just gave a lot to this. And it did get a lot darker, and it should have. It made sense. It didn't feel out of place. Like Temple of Doom and Indiana Jones kind of felt a little out of place by how dark it got, but Empire felt right. The story should have gotten darker. It was the darker chapter in the Star Wars trilogy. It made you question, is someone going to die? What's going to happen? And other stories, we knew that Luke and Darth Vader were going to come face to face eventually, and it was going to be brutal. We knew Han would have to come face to face with owing Jabba money, the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire, all that stuff is going to come to a head, and the ending is kind of a down note. We find out something shocking, and everyone knows the twist in this movie, but I'm not going to ruin it here just in case, because there are probably a lot of people out there who still haven't seen these movies. And, you know, Luke has to deal with that, and it's shocking for the audience as much as it's shocking for him. And, you know, what happens with Han in the end, and it really ends on such a down note, but it makes you, but it's bittersweet, but it is kind of triumphant because the heroes are still there, and you cannot wait until the next chapter. Like, the first one wrapped up pretty well, to where you kind of felt like, if that's the only movie, I'm okay with that. With Empire, it's like, there's going to be another one. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So, you know, I give Empire credit for that. Now, in terms of the differences between the two films, again, just a lot of cleanup in the special effects, which was nice. They actually show the snow monster with Luke. That was a fantastic addition to the special edition. Yeah. And I'm trying to think what else. Cloud City, they opened up. This one, the things they changed all felt necessary. Like, it really helped the movie more than hindered it. Like, they opened up Cloud City, which I didn't even know originally. You know, it was very closed in. The sets, there were no windows, anything, and this added a lot, you know, to where it looked like there was more outside. And it helped. It made Cloud City look a lot better. I'm sure there were other changes, but I can't think of anything. But to me, the special edition is much better than the original because it just adds little touches that are just make it even better. And there's a reason why people consider this to be the best Star Wars movie, because it is. I mean, come on. You have the opening scene with it took what the first Star Wars movie did and did it even better, which is difficult for a sequel to do. Most sequels can't pull that off. And this one did, and then some. I mean, the fight on Hoth, and then the stuff with Yoda and Luke training, the stuff in the Millennium Falcon and Han and Leia falling in love, that's memorable. You know, Cloud City, Lando Calrissian, you know, hello, what have we here? The coolest motherfucker in the galaxy. Billy D. Williams, Lando is probably my favorite character in the whole Star Wars universe because he's so suave and mysterious, and he's a good guy, but he's awesome. He's the coolest black guy in the galaxy, and I love his character. And one of my favorite parts of this movie is when he sees Han for the first time, and it looks like he's going to hit Han, he hugs him instead, and you just don't know about this guy. And that's a cool character when you first see the movie. You just don't know. Is he good? Is he not? You know, what happens to Han, that's shocking and heartbreaking. The lightsaber duel between Darth and Luke, that's really cool. And you just feel for Luke because he's so out of his element and he's not ready, but he's brave and you just respect him for it. And the ending, you know, it all is just great. Now, the only flaw in this movie is when Luke goes to Dagobah to train, and Han and Leia are running from the Empire, it looks like both are happening at the same time. So, were Han and them running from the Empire for weeks or months, or did Luke only get trained in a few hours? It's just one of those little flaws that there's nothing they could have done. You know, because the movie is as well put together as you can get. The script is solid, the cast is solid, the editing, everything is solid. The direction by Lawrence Kasdan, I wish Lawrence Kasdan would have done Return of the Jedi, because he was the right director for this, and he passed away a little while ago. Wonderful director. I wish he would have done more for Star Wars. I wish he would have. Hell, I wish they would have brought it back for the prequels, because he knew how to direct actors and to get what he needed. But yeah, it's much darker, but there's still a lot of humor in it. The humor's on point. All the characters get the right amount of time. The stories are great. Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, easily 5 out of 5. Easily. And it's always the first Star Wars movie I go to if I want to watch a Star Wars movie. I try to watch like A New Hope first, then Empire, then Jedi, but if I'm just wanting to watch one, usually it's going to be Empire. So, let's move on to the last one. in the Star Wars original trilogy, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Now this one seems to be everyone's least favorite in the original trilogy, and honestly it's mine too, but I still love this movie. I think it's underappreciated for... It is very good, but it's got enough stupid shit that it holds it back. But the story in what was supposed to be the final chapter in the Star Wars... I mean, at the time was the final chapter in the Star Wars saga. It's been 3 years. Luke... Leia, everyone else, they go to Jabba's palace, try to rescue Han Solo. Some stuff happens there. That's really good stuff. I mean, people say that this scene, it took up way too much time in the movie. Personally, I enjoy it. You know, there's a lot of great puppetry, a great set. The change I didn't like from the original is that stupid song sequence. It's fucking dumb. And I hate it. I hated it even when I originally saw the special editions and I'd never seen Star Wars before. I thought it was dumb. And it's dumb. Horrible edition. Out of all three, the worst editions for the movie is in this one. Anyway. But after that, Luke goes back to Dagobah to talk to Yoda. Luke is now a badass. He's kind of become basically a full-fledged Jedi. So it's cool to see him finally reach his potential. They kind of redo A New Hope. There's a new Death Star, which I don't really like. I wish they would have went a different route. I mean, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, like, I don't really have any complaints about it, but I wish they would have came up with something more original. But the Galactic Empire is building a new Death Star. The Emperor is going to be on the Death Star. We finally get to see the Emperor in person, not just on a hologram. That was another change to Empire. They put in Ian McDiarmid, who played the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. They put him in Empire Strikes Back instead of the actor they had. Again, made complete sense. Addition to that. But he does a fantastic job in this. I love him as the Emperor. Who doesn't? He's one of the highlights. The stuff between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker is really heart-wrenching. Han and Leia, their relationship is still great. The droids are great. Chewbacca's great. The Rebel Alliance have a plan to take down the Empire. The Empire kind of knows what's going on, but they go to the forest planet of Endor, and they get help from the Ewoks. Very controversial little tribe of bears. Personally, I like the Ewoks. I see why people don't like them, but I enjoy the idea of this tribe, of this alien bear tribe, whatever they're called, helping, you know, with their sticks and stones defeat something as big as the Galactic Empire. I kind of like that. It's cheesy, but it's cute. And personally, I have no issue with the Ewoks. I like them. So that stuff's good, and it all leads to a fabulous finale, and an ending that to me is very satisfying for the original Star Wars trilogy. So that's the story. The biggest changes, like I said, that stupid song in the beginning. They again cleaned up a lot of the special effects. I know there's some other stuff I really just can't remember. A big change that pissed people off was that they put in Hayden Christensen, who plays Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy, which I'll cover those in the next video. They put him in there in the ending as Anakin Skywalker. Personally, I like this change. I mean, they couldn't change the actor when Luke takes Darth's mask off. They couldn't change that. They can't reshoot that. But it kind of made sense. I mean, I don't know. I personally, I like the change, but I see why people don't like it. But another change, too, in the ending is the song. When I saw this movie, the special edition, I heard the new John Williams score, which is beautiful, and I loved it. And I always heard of Yub Nub. I'm like, what the fuck is Yub Nub? Are you hungry? Like, is that a food? And then I heard it, finally. The Bida Yub Nub, Boondan Dabba, whatever it goes. I personally prefer the special edition John Williams score, but I like Yub Nub as well. And I see why people would get mad that they would change that, because it makes more sense, you know. It's kind of the Ewoks, I think, singing, maybe, I don't know. But I do like how they show other parts of the galaxy celebrating that the Emperor is gone and the Empire is destroyed. I like that. That was a great addition as well. But Return of the Jedi, it's the weakest of the original trilogy, but I don't think it gets the respect it deserves. Like, the first two movies are in the National Film Registry. Personally, I think they should be as well. You cannot have the first two and not Return of the Jedi. All three of these movies change the way movies are made. So I hope this one gets in eventually. And again, like, it just doesn't get the respect it deserves, but you can't have the original Star Wars trilogy without Return of the Jedi. It is a great story from beginning to end. It's fun. It's the weakest, but far from the worst. It's a good movie. It's a very good movie, actually. And it all wraps up nicely. You know, it's hard to do that with a trilogy of movies, to have it wrap up very well. And this one did it without making it go on too long in the end, you know, like a Return of the King. Yeah, I was satisfied. And every time I watch this, it makes me just want to go back and rewatch the trilogy again. And it's cool to see the actors grow up, you know, like, kind of age a little bit. I don't know why, but it's always fun for me. But Star Wars Return of the Jedi, I give 4 out of 5. I think that's fair. Some people will probably give it lower, but again, I think it's very underappreciated. I don't know, I enjoy several parts that people don't like. I see some things that people don't like, and I'm like, okay, I get that, but it doesn't really bother me. Some of the additions are dumb, and some are really good. And once again, I kind of do prefer the special edition, even with the stupid shit. And I kind of prefer the special editions on all 3, but it's probably because that's the first ones I saw. But I'm very happy I saw the original and I have them, even if it's just on crappy Laserdisc port, but I'm glad I have them. And they should re-release them on Blu-ray, the original. I heard Disney's supposed to do it, I hope they do. But Return of the Jedi, I still think is fantastic, just like the first 2. So there you go, those are my thoughts and my reviews of the Star Wars original trilogy. Still my favorite film trilogy, and, you know, 3 of my favorite films of all time. I could watch them any day of the week. They still hold up, and I love them to death. And it just makes me more excited talking about this to get to Rogue One, you know, and eventually next year Star Wars Episode 8. You know, it's great that we have another new trilogy. You know, that I've been alive in a time when I got to see the special editions of Star Wars come out, and then a new prequel trilogy, and then another trilogy. It's awesome. So, that's my review of the original Star Wars trilogy. Hope you enjoyed it. In the next video, I will talk about the prequel trilogy, which, of course, people don't nearly like as much, and yeah, I'm in that same boat as well. But I'm Filmholmes, this was Too Many Movies, and I will see you in that video. Coming soon. Take care.